You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Glad you could join me here today on this Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday, where we are going to be settling the debate over whether you should only be eating 2 meals per day. So previously, I'd done a podcast on why making the move to 3 meals per day. I wanted to address a few different protocols and plans and books and blueprints and everything else that says, well, maybe 2 meals per day is best. So I want to look at that from an Ayurvedic medicine perspective, a body type perspective, and also a nutrient perspective. And then by the end of the show, I want you to make the right decision for you. I don't want to always be telling you, hey, do this, do this, do this. What I want you to do is begin to accumulate the knowledge that will allow you to then make the best decision for you and your family. Because remember, we all need to eat food, right? We all need to exercise. We all need to get sleep. But the amounts and the way that we go about it is going to vary slightly. Now, it doesn't vary drastically. So when you see drastic meal plans telling you not to eat any carbohydrates or any vegetables or any fruit, well, those are just not going to work if you want to live a long, healthy life. They'll work in the short term. There's no doubt about it. I've spoken about that before. I did a whole show on the carnivore diet. But what I want to do today is actually talk about, can you eat a healthy, well-balanced diet in just 2 meals per day? And I'm going to go through some of the drawbacks, and I'll go through also some of the positives, and then I'll let you make the right decision for you. I've done a lot of shows over the last couple of weeks that people have wanted to hear more about, and that's on catabolism. Now, catabolism means the body's breaking down. It means that the body could be aging at a faster rate. There could be more inflammation or inflammaging. Now, keep in mind, we need some level of catabolism. Our cells are meant to break down every 120 days or so. Our body actually completely transforms, at least about 97% of it each and every year. And then about every 5 to 7 years, we have a brand new body. That's literally how our body works. And there needs to be a breaking down. If not, we can become too anabolic and we can actually develop cancerous tumors in our body. We can begin to become overweight. We can develop the health issues surrounding basically building up too much, right? So what we want to look at is always that balance. I would love you, if you haven't already, to simply tune into the last couple of weeks' shows. That was 1287. So stephencabral.com/1287. And it looks at, are you overtraining or overstressed leading to catabolism? And I just give you the signs and symptoms because I want you to know, and knowledge is power. That's what it's all about. You'll never be taught this in school. Your medical doctor or PCP is never going to explain this to you. And it's because it wasn't explained to them. And I mean, we in school, this is my biggest gripe with formal education. We are taught a way to think that does not serve us from a health, creativity, or expansion-based state. We're taught how to be good little pupils and factory workers and all of those things to stay in line and memorize your facts and go through this and that. And, people always want to say, well, I have this specific formal training, and all of that is important. It's all important. An engineer's training is important. Same with an attorney and a lawyer and real estate agent, whatever it might be. They're all important. But what's also important is to understand how to accumulate that knowledge, accumulate knowledge in other areas of life, integrate it, and then you're much more well-rounded. Then you can actually think for yourself outside of the specific parameters you've been taught to think in. Now, in school, we're simply never taught, ever, how to eat healthy, how to take care of our bodies, how much sleep we need. We're taught all sorts of other things that end up becoming pretty useless as we get older. But we're not taught the importance. We're not taught the basics, right? We're not taught anything about how to manage money or how to budget properly or how to fix things, right? We're not taught any of these things to help self-sustain our life. Well, in my opinion, health would be the first and foremost. Without that, you don't get to do all the other things like work and take care of the family and do things around the house. Like, we're not taught those things, right? So let's get healthy first. Check out episode 1279, the 7 signs you become too catabolic and you're aging too rapidly. And then check out 1287, all right? So those are important shows. It's going to give you a premise for if 2 meals for you might be too few. And that's simply because of, are you getting more of those catabolic signs that age you faster, that wear you down faster? Meaning, like, you're starting to get more tired. You're starting to get lower endurance, lower stamina, lower libido, lower recovery from exercise. You're starting to get the thinner skin, the thinner aging, the thinner aging, the thinner hair, the thinner skin, the thinner nails, right? The more brittle. And maybe a little bit more drawn looking, right? In the eyes and in the face. We see this a lot. And again, it's never my place to judge, and I'm not here to judge. But when I see this happening to people and I see it happening to health gurus, I never do this, but I feel like I want to reach out and I want to say, like, listen, you were doing great in the beginning. Now it's just taken too far, right? Because nobody's a bigger proponent of fasting than me. But what if you're fasting too much? We have this very American and Western-based mindset that the more we do something that's good, the better. When that is such a Western-based mentality. And believe me, I have that myself. For sure, if sitting in a sauna for 20 minutes is good, well, I'm like, maybe I should sit in it for an hour and just literally crawl out of it. I'm so, weakened. So that's for sure, that's my mentality. And I have to fight that. And it's part of why I podcast on it, because I bet there's a couple other people out there that are in the same boat. Well, okay, fasting is good. Let me just not eat for a couple weeks, right? Like, it's like, how far can I take this? Well, here's the thing. We have to find balance. Every form of medicine was always about creating equilibrium. Every form of medicine. Look back towards ancient Ayurvedic, Chinese medicine, Taoism. I mean, it's literally, Taoists are creating balance. It's the flow and balance of energy in life. Traditional Chinese medicine, the yin and the yang, right? In Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine has a 5-point star as well, but in Ayurvedic medicine, you're looking at the same exact thing, the vata, the pitta, and the kapha. And then we can go even deeper into that, which is the ether. We can look at that in terms of movement and flow. I won't go through all of them today, but it's just always about creating balance in life. That's what it's about. So anything that's good for us can also be taken too far, right? So what I want to go over is a couple things today. And this is bottom line stuff, meaning that my goal is to keep you healthy for life. I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. So here's the thing. I want to keep myself in good shape now. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm like most people. I want to stay in good shape. But I'm not going to do it at the detriment of not being healthy and have lots of energy in my 70s and 80s. Because here's what I see. I mean, literally in my practice, it's been going on now for 19 years. We've seen over 250,000 people, and I don't say that to impress anything upon you, but it's simply to say we have a lot of data. When I say that, that means we have a lot of data. 250,000 people, far more than that now. But who's counting at this point, right? Here's the thing. What I see is this, and this is very prevalent, is I see people starting to slow down in their mid to later 40s, definitely 50s for most people. In their 60s, I see them a little bit more tempered. They're just not taking up anything new. There's not a lot of pep in their step. That vitality is definitely going down. And in their 70s, it is down. So people in their 70s, I just see them walking slower, moving slower, talking slower. Everything is slow. And then in the 80s, if they make it to their 80s, because remember, average lifespan now is now going down, and I did a podcast on that, how it's actually now lowering, which is completely insane. With all the technology and everything that we have and all the advances in medicine, now we're no longer living as long. I mean, how is that humanly possible? Well, it's possible because we've gotten out of balance. That's it. That's literally the only reason. If you create balance and you mix that with the advances in technology, in my opinion, sky's the limit. And I want to try to take advantage of sky's the limit in my own life. But here's the problem. I see people that they're in those wasting stages. We call them the vata stages later in life. So again, I did a podcast on the stages of life. I do hope that you check that out. That was an Ayurvedic-based podcast. My Ayurvedic podcast started in the 900 episodes, so the 900 and beyond. So what I want you to think about is this, though. If you allow your body to deteriorate when you're younger, it's harder to build up when you're older, because you're naturally in more of the vata stage of life. What you need to do right now is find that balance in your younger years, okay? I'm going to give you up until you're 60 to call it your younger years because I really believe that, unless you're just totally wearing your body out. What would be some things of wearing your body out? Marathon training, triathlon training, hardcore workouts, severe dieting in any macro, severe dieting in protein, severe dieting in low carb, severe dieting in fat. All of those would be wiping yourself out of a nutrient. And I've gone through why you need fat, why you need protein, and why you need carbs. You need all of them. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So here's the thing, though. You can get away with absolutely anything really before your, let's say, mid-50s to 60. And that's because for the most part, and especially in your 20s and 30s, that's why I was there myself. But you can't be a guru in your 20s, right? Like it's just, you can't be like, hey, look at my body, look what I'm doing. You should copy me. And this is no offense to anyone in their 20s preaching about how well they're doing because you're in your 20s. And again, I don't say that to be disparaging or condescending at all, but you have so many buffers still in your body. You have your mineral-based buffers. You have plenty of protein stores. Your body has not had a couple more decades of accumulating toxins. And you've also not run it down with kids and family and decades of work, right? And again, I didn't know that one. I mean, I've been doing this since I was 18 years old, actually younger than that, right? When I got sick, I was like, I need to take care of this body. I need to figure it out. Nobody has any answers. My body's an absolute mess. Maybe if I start going to the gym, I can build it up and I can feel better about myself. And that's what I did, 17 years old. So I've been in this a long time. But here's the thing. I mean, I read thousands of books into my 20s, thousands of books, because I have an obsessive compulsive based personality. There's no doubt about that. And I just shifted it. Luckily, I shifted it into not something negative in my life, into something that would become positive. But I was obsessed with nutrition, and I was obsessed with exercise, and I was obsessed with nutritional supplements and how to repair my body. I got into Qigong and like all these different areas, right? So here's the thing though. I still didn't know. I still didn't have the experience of time, right? I still needed more time to realize, oh, this is what happens to the body as we age. So what I'm saying to you now is let's not wear the body out. I'm very, very cognizant of this now. Very cognizant of this. Is that I need to keep the body strong now because I know it's going to be harder to get it back. Now you can absolutely rejuvenate your body. I mean, in Ayurvedic medicine, they have the rasanas. They have all these different ways of rejuvenating the body. We go through Panchakarma, we do our quarterly detoxes, and we get more sleep, and we do strategic fasting, right? To rejuvenate the body. And you can do it at any age. On just last Friday's podcast, I talked about how getting into a normal exercise program can reduce mortality at any age from being a couch potato by about a third, right? By getting to do sauna, you can decrease your all-cause mortality by over 60%, decrease your chance of dying from heart disease by over 40%, right? That's passive. You're sitting in the sauna. So remember, there are ways to do this, but I also want to make sure that we are just not necessarily taking from the bank without making some deposits. The deposits are mainly your nutrition. So I want to just I was speaking in generalities before because I need to impress upon you the whole point to this. The whole point is to not literally begin to always harvest, right? So in the world today, we have very depleted soil. Why do we have depleted soil? Well, we're always harvesting from the same soil. Previously, there was this 3-crop rotation, or you'd have the animals moving through and there would be manure. I know that not a lot of people want to talk about that, but the manure would actually replenish the soil, and then there wouldn't be any planting for one of those fields. And you'd have behind the cattle, the chickens would then come. I think it was in Food Inc. that they actually did a nice little example of this. But Joel Salatin, I believe, talks a good amount about how you can use organic farming and how you can really work the land to develop really healthy crops. I heard him speak, got to meet him one time at a health expo. I believe it was down in Baltimore. And great guy, obviously really passionate about this. But the point is this. We need periods of rest. We need our macronutrients. We need the soil to actually have the nutrients. Well, our body is the soil, and we need to be giving it 7 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. That's very well documented now. You can absolutely fast, and you should. But you also then need a point of repair. So fasting allows things to break down. So fasting allows you to get into autophagy. Now, there's greater levels of autophagy the longer you fast. There's no doubt about that. I've spoken about that quite often on how long you should fast. You can use my formula, which is simply 1 day a week for 24 hours. I go from Sunday night to Monday night for dinner, right? So I have dinner with my family Sunday night, and then I don't eat all day on Monday, and then I have dinner with my family on Monday. Now, sometimes that will be just shake powder, breakfast, lunch, and then a mid-afternoon every 3.5 hours or so. Just one scoop of the daily nutritional support to give my body nutrients if I feel like it's a little run down, and that helps with detoxification. Okay, great. You can do that, or you can simply do hot ginger tea. Sip that throughout the day. You could just do water. You could even do a dry fast if you wanted to experiment with that. That's totally up to you, right? I'm not going to say one way or another. There's different ways to fast, but that's just 1 day a week. Okay. The other way to do it, or I should say, but even before that, is a 12-hour fast every single day. Maybe it's 14 hours, okay? But you're doing an overnight fast. So let's take it from the beginning. I'll just give you a quick summary, and then I'll do a whole show on another show on this one day because it is so important. 12 to 14 hours every single night. I go from about 6:30 p.m. till about 7:30 the next day, maybe 8 o'clock at the most. So I'm going anywhere from 6 to 8, okay? So it's somewhere between 13 hours and 14 hours per day. That's my fast every single day, okay? Next, I do that once a week, and then every quarter, I do our functional medicine detox, our liver detoxification protocol, which is so important. And I am doing that, and that lasts about 2.5 days. So Monday, Tuesday, that's how I started on a Monday. It's 4 shakes a day, but again, these are super low calorie, just nutrients to ramp up detox. And I'm not going to go into why that's needed today, but you can go and look to the previous shows about the 77,000 man-made chemicals and how your body's overloaded. And when you begin to remove these things from your adipose tissue and fat cells, it needs to be gotten out of the body very, very quickly, or it can cause more harm than good. Even just 100 years ago, we didn't have to deal with this. Not before 1940 did we really have to deal with this level of toxins, okay? So then, after that, there's one more fast, and that can be once a year. This is not for everyone, but this would be an even longer fast once a year. 5 days to 7 days, okay? Some people do it even longer. I don't want to talk about that right now as a fast for that long, because this may need, especially your first time, to be under medical supervision. And it's not going to be for everyone, all right? But if you're doing everything else, the quarterly detoxes, the nightly 12 to 14 hours, the once a week 24, you may not even need the longer one. Now, it's great, but it's not for everyone, all right? So I'm going to keep it at that. But what do we need to be doing then if we're doing our actual fast like that? Well, then we also need the repair process, okay? So we're breaking down, we're removing cancer cells, we're removing necrotic tissue, we're binding up toxins. Well, we need 7 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Every day. That's what we need. So how do we get them on a daily basis, except maybe that 1 24-hour fast a day? How do we get them? Well, we get them over typically 3 meals per day. Why? Well, it's pretty challenging to get them over 2 meals a day. Think about it. If you need to eat 4 cups or more of vegetables per meal, and you don't want to mix your fruit with your veggies really at that meal, unless you're blending it up and just making it soup anyways, what are you doing? Well, it's not possible for most people to be able to digest 4 to 5 cups of veggies at that meal, along with their protein, along with their fat. That's going to be over 6 cups of food at a meal. Even if you just did, let's say, 4.5 cups of your veggies, okay? So think about that. And then you did 1 cup of protein, whatever you choose, your beans, your meat, your poultry, your fish, a couple eggs, whatever you want, okay? I'm just not even telling you what to eat today. I want to just look at this from another perspective. Then let's say you're throwing in 1 avocado. I mean, you're looking at 6 cups of food for sure. That is too much food in your belly for most people. And here's why. You can't just dump food into your stomach and say, okay, body, now go ahead and digest. Every form of medicine said that's a bad idea. Okay? Here's why. It takes an enormous amount of energy and resources to build up that type of stomach acid, to use that amount of enzymes, to produce that amount of bile, and not get bloating or fermenting in the stomach or poor nutrient absorption. Your body does very, and plus you need to chew those 6 cups of food at least, every mouthful, at least 30 times to make it into a paste. Remember, if you're not chewing up your food, you're asking your stomach to do an enormous amount of work, which could be one of the many, many reasons why you're so tired, or why you get bloating, or why you get gas. You're just not chewing up your food properly as well, and you're not producing enough stomach-based acid. So no one meal should be that massive. When you look at traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, I'm going to go back to those because they're the most comprehensive, and they've been around the longest with the most amount of writing behind them. Again, there are other forms of medicine, but when you look at them, breakfast was always fairly light. It was not sitting down to chicken sausages, eggs cooked in lard. That wasn't it. That was not it. That's a very American thing, okay? And we have to look at why we would not do that. Here's the reason why. When you eat that much food when you just woke up, and let's say even an hour after you woke up, your body is not ready to be able to take in that level of food and break it all down. Now, it will do it because our bodies are these amazing machines. It will do it. But here's what's going to happen as well. It's going to draw a lot of energy from you in order to do that. Because about a third of all of our energy goes to digestion. Well, if it takes more than that, because you asked it to digest heavy proteins first thing in the morning, not a great idea. Well, let's look at Ayurveda. Let's look at TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. What would they say? Well, in TCM, colder climates, they're actually starting their day a lot of times with a soup, a warm, hot, or something like that, a broth and a soup, okay? In Ayurvedic medicine, they're starting with some type of porridge or oats or fruit, etc. And for me, what I'm looking for detoxification-based purposes and to hydrate people because they're not going to eat soup and they're not going to do these types of things is a smoothie. Why would I recommend a smoothie over all else? It's because you can get in the most amount of nutrients with the least amount of digestion. And you're not going to get the blood sugar spike that you would get from nowadays fruit because the fruit that we have today probably wouldn't have been as plentiful or around back then 6,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. It's been hybridized. So what I'm talking about is getting a little protein, getting a little bit of fat, getting in some good fruit, mainly berries probably in that smoothie, which is allowing you to then also drink it over the course of an hour and for it to be time released. Use anything you want in that. We have a free smoothie guide that you're welcome to download. It's going to be on any podcast page. Today's podcast is stephencabral.com/1293. Download it. Use anything you like in it. Any products you want. Whatever works for you, fantastic. You'll see the smoothie that I make for myself. Every day you'll see the one that I make for my daughters. Why do we start this? Well, in Ayurvedic and every other form of medicine, they said, start your breakfast as kind of your medium-sized meal for the day. But keep it easy to digest so that you don't need a pot of coffee to keep you energized, to keep you going, to even break down that meal. But it's going to be there in order for you to fuel your body and get you through the morning. Enough to get you through the morning. That's key. Why? Because you're going to be eating again. You don't need to put everything in there in that meal. And then for lunch, what's always been talked about? Well, this can be your larger meal of the day. That's going to be the meal where you're able to, and again, this is very different in our culture, but you're going to be able to sit down, digest, break down a good-sized meal. And that could be another you get 3 cups of your fruit or veggies in the morning, 3 cups or so at lunch, and then the breakfast ones are blended up, 3 cups at lunch. Maybe it's a cup of sweet potatoes, it's 2 cups of broccoli, whatever you're into. And then for dinner, it's going to be our lighter meal, maybe a little easier to digest. Now, again, I know a lot of people are doing their kind of heavier meal at the end of the day, which I'm not necessarily against if you never stop to kind of slow down during the day. But here's the thing. Whether you do 2 meals or 3 meals is really up to you. And if you're going to do 2 meals, I want to give you an option right now on how to do that right. This is what I would do. Let's say you're fasting until lunch, because a lot of people do that. We have to be careful, again, of becoming too catabolic. Every day, fasting for 16 hours may or may not work for you. And I did a podcast on what happens when you get stressed in the morning. Your body manufactures glucose anyways. That's the irony of this. People are like, oh, I don't want to spike my blood sugar first thing in the morning with food. Well, here's the thing. I don't want you to do that either. But test your blood sugar. Test those theories. We do it all the time with the thyroid adrenal hormone, and we see a spike of insulin in the morning. We know that those people are still spiking their blood sugar without eating. And the reason that's happening is because they're higher up in cortisol. They're higher up in norepinephrine and adrenaline. Well, what's going to happen is their body's going to manufacture the glucose anyways. It's going to take it from the liver. It will break down your own muscle tissue, making you even more catabolic. actually lowering your metabolism in the long run. I did a video on that at stephencabral.com/BRMI. And I show you how this stress, if it's there, it's going to cause you to make that happen anyway. You might as well eat. Eating actually cuts cortisol if you get some carbs in there. So here's another interesting tip though. If you have a relaxed morning, like on my 24-hour fast, I just try to keep it relaxed. If you are relaxed, you may be able to then calmly move through that breakfast, right, without eating it. But here's the thing, and I'm going to be talking about this more. One day I create a weight loss-based course on this and metabolic-based course because that's what it's all about, is let's say that half hour or so, an hour before you do your lunch, you might make your smoothie then. Like you might actually just say, okay, I'm only eating 2 meals per day, but what you might combine is a smoothie, not a big one, but a smaller one, about 2 hours, or I shouldn't say that, about an hour or so before your lunch. And the reason is then that smoothie will have left your stomach because it takes about, when you finish the smoothie, it'll be gone in your stomach in about an hour or so, maybe 90 minutes. And then you can do your lunch right after that, okay? So the smoothie could be like almost like your appetizer. Now you're going to get a couple cups. Maybe you do a cup of veggies and a cup of fruit. You can go back to my food combining podcast and see if it makes sense for you or not. But you might just make a very simple smoothie in there, and then you do your lunch an hour or so later. Now, that allows you then to get a couple cups in your smoothie and then 3 cups or so at your lunch. Now you're at 5, and then you wait 4 or 5 hours and you do your dinner, and then you can add another 3 cups there. Now, if you do that, you don't just go from 3 cups at lunch of veggies and 3 cups at dinner, which does not make your minimum amount of fruit and vegetables, but it allows you to then get 8 cups right there, right? 2 in your smoothie or so, 3 at lunch, that's 5, and then 3 more at dinner, that's 8. Okay, here's another way to do it. Let's say you do end up fasting till lunch, okay? Well, you can do lunch at 11 or 12, at 3 o'clock, for 3 or 4 hours. I would do 4 hours after that meal. You could do a smoothie, okay? Doesn't have to be a big one. And then 2 to 3 hours after that, you could do dinner. Or even a half hour to an hour before dinner, you could do 1 cup of fruit. You still probably won't get in the amount of micros you need in that scenario. You kind of really have to blend it up or make it into a smoothie. It's totally up to you, but you want to make sure it's out of your stomach because you don't want to put undigested food onto partially digested food. That will absolutely cause bloating, fermenting, bacterial buildup. So these are just a couple tips of how you may want to do it. Again, in my opinion, you can make it happen if you're a 2-meal type of day person, but you also just always have to question why you're doing the things that you're doing. You know, like, are you committed to 2 meals a day? And if so, for what reason? Because if it's for better overall health and you're more of that Vata body type, it's probably not going to aid you in the long run. If you're more of the endomorph or Kapha body type, which is naturally more anabolic, meaning like you gain weight and not even really think about it, right? You're not even thinking about, I gain weight without even really trying. Okay, you might be more of that Kapha body type, okay? So maybe then a longer fast may be better for you. And maybe you're moving to 2 meals per day. But just make sure that you don't miss out on your micronutrients because you will lower your thyroid. You will lower your metabolism. Your skin will thin faster. You will start getting the fine lines. Your hair will thin. Your endurance, your stamina, your libido, your zest for life, and your vitality, your bones, they will all start to break down faster because your body needs the nutrients. So it will rob from different areas, proteins from your skin and hair and nails. It will take calcium from your bones, right? It will do it to stay alive. So what I'm saying to you is always question what you believe in currently at this day. And as you question it, you might say, okay, no, I am on the right track. That's okay because that could be the answer you come to. Or you might say, no, I'm not getting my 7 to 9 servings of fruit and vegetables every day. Here's what I need to do. Maybe I do have a small smoothie an hour before lunch, okay? And I stick to my 2 meals a day, but I combine that smoothie basically an hour or so before lunch so it's digested, okay? And then I do my dinner. Or what I do is I do 3 meals, but I'm going to still allow myself to get in the fast, but it's 14 hours, right? Instead, and then I can still do my 4 or 5 hours between meals. Or maybe do then a small mid-afternoon snack if I'm committed to going to lunch. So there are different ways of doing this, and I want to support you in whatever you feel is best for you. That's the bottom line. I just want to make sure that you stay healthy now, because even if you feel great now, there's a big difference between what you're doing to the body now and what it will look like in 20 or 30 years. So I simply want you to be the healthiest version of you, and anything I can do that, I want to be here to help. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. please do feel free to head on over to stephencabral.com/1293 today's show for all the different links and show notes. And of course, if this was helpful, please do feel free to pass along to anyone else you believe it could serve. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.